Before we start, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It really helps the channel grow. We open with Stanley Ipkiss, a shy and kind-hearted bank employee, chatting with his colleague Maggie. His energetic friend Charlie teases him, saying Maggie is just using him, and insists on taking him out for a fun night. Just then, rain starts pouring outside, and a stunning woman named Tina walks into the bank. Stanley and Charlie are immediately mesmerized by her beauty. Charlie leads Tina to Stanley's desk, where she says she wants to open a new account. But while she's flirting with Stanley, the hidden camera inside her purse secretly records footage of the bank's main vault. Somewhere else, two men, Dorian and Freeze, are watching that same footage. It turns out, they're planning a bank robbery. Freeze reminds Dorian that their boss, Nico, needs to approve the plan, but Dorian insists that things are about to change. He's ready to take over the whole operation. Later, Stanley visits a car repair shop run by two shady mechanics. His car isn't ready, so they lend him a wreck of a vehicle called the Loner. That night, Stanley drives the Loner to the Coco Bongo Club, hoping for a fun night out. Outside, he meets Charlie, who's already there with two girls. Charlie bribes the bouncer, Bobby, to let them in, but when Stanley tries to enter, Bobby stops him and throws him into the gutter. Embarrassed, especially when Tina shows up right after, Stanley gets back into the Loner and drives away, the car leaving a trail of smoke behind. While driving across a bridge, the Loner breaks down. Stanley gets out to check and notices what looks like a body floating in the water. He rushes down to help but realizes it's only a pile of trash. Among the garbage, he finds a strange, wooden-looking mask. He returns home, drenched, only to be yelled at by his cranky landlady, Mrs. Peenman, for dripping water on her carpet. Inside, his dog Milo jumps excitedly to greet him. Stanley turns on the TV and sees an interview with Dr. Newman, a psychologist who's talking about how people wear masks to hide their true selves. Meanwhile, Milo seems disturbed by the strange object his owner just brought home. Curious, Stanley picks up the mask for a closer look. The moment he raises it toward his face, it suddenly latches onto him. A tornado of green energy spins around the room. Milo hides in fear.
Okay.
When it stops, Stanley has transformed completely. His face is bright green, his clothes wild and cartoonish. He's no longer Stanley, he's the mask. Full of manic energy, the mask bursts into the hallway near Mrs. Peenman's door. An animated alarm clock jumps from his pocket, and he smashes it with a giant hammer. Mrs. Peenman storms out, screams at the sight of him, and fires her gun. The mask bounces all the way down the hallway and out the window, splatting flat on the street below. But like a cartoon, he peels himself off the pavement, and when a car honks at him, he blows a tiny horn back, which explodes the car's windshield. A gang of street thugs tries to mug him, but he dashes into an alley. When they catch up, he's making balloon animals for them, until one balloon turns into a machine gun, and he fires wildly, sending them running for their lives. Then, the mask pays a visit to the car mechanics who scammed him earlier. We don't see what happens, but the next morning, it's clear he gave them a memorable punishment. Stanley wakes up in bed the next day, convinced it was all a dream, until Detective Calloway knocks on the door, investigating last night's chaos. Stanley plays dumb, but when the detective describes the events, Stanley realizes it really happened. He checks the time, panics about being late for work, and throws the mask out the window, not realizing it magically flies right back inside. At the car shop, the two mechanics are being wheeled into an ambulance, each with a car exhaust pipe sticking out of his backside. A reporter named Peggy Brandt sneaks in to investigate the scene. At the bank, Stanley arrives late again. Charlie asks where he disappeared to last night, but before he can answer, the bank manager scolds him for being late. Just then, Peggy enters the bank and interviews Stanley about the mysterious vigilante attack. She flirts with him a little, telling him there are hundreds of women looking for a nice, decent man like him. Before leaving, she hands him her card with her private number. Meanwhile, Dorian visits his boss Nico, who's fully aware that Dorian's plotting a coup. Nico warns him to leave town or face deadly consequences. That night, Stanley dreams of Tina. She's close to him, whispering in his ear, until he wakes up and realizes it's just Milo licking his face. Still thinking about Tina, he spots her photo in the newspaper singing at the Coco Bongo Club and gets an idea. He puts on the mask again. Instantly transformed, the mask bursts into action. But he's broke, so he decides to fix that problem. Coincidentally, Dorian's gang is getting ready to rob the same bank. Suddenly, the vault doors blow open and the mask spins out into the street with bags full of cash, leaving the gang empty-handed. Later that night, the police surround the Coco Bongo Club as a long limousine pulls up. The mask steps out in style, tossing money in the air like confetti. Inside, Tina performs a sultry number on stage. The mask, totally smitten, goes wild watching her, spinning, dancing, and charming everyone in sight. He jumps on stage, joins the band, and turns the performance into a full-blown party. But trouble walks in. Dorian and his gang enter the club. When one of them, Sweet Eddie, points at the mask, Dorian realizes he's the one who stole the money. Nico's thug Orlando shoots at the mask, thinking he killed him, but the mask dramatically fakes his death before bouncing back up unharmed. As Dorian and Orlando try again, chaos erupts, and just as things spiral out of control, Lieutenant Calloway bursts in with police and arrests Dorian and Orlando. Calloway also finds a torn piece of Stanley's pajamas on the floor. The next morning, Stanley wakes up in his bed, still wearing his striped pajamas, when there's a knock at the door. It's Detective Calloway, again asking questions about the strange events from the previous night. Stanley nervously denies everything, but when he hides the stolen bank money in his closet, a few bills spill out onto the floor. After the detective leaves, Stanley sighs with relief, unaware that his dog Milo is trying to open the closet door. At the police station, Calloway and his partner Doyle review the bank's security footage, where they clearly see the mask robbing the bank. Meanwhile, Dorian meets with his thugs, furious about losing the cash. He offers a $50,000 reward to anyone who can bring him the mask. His jealousy grows when he questions Tina about her kiss with the mask. It's obvious he's still obsessed with her. At the bank, Stanley arrives while the police are investigating the robbery. The manager scolds him again for being late, but this time, Stanley stands up for himself, surprising everyone, including Charlie. As they talk, Tina walks in. Stanley takes her upstairs, and she admits she's fascinated by the mask. Stanley pretends to know him personally and says he might be able to set up a meeting. She kisses him on the cheek before leaving Stanley completely smitten. Later, Stanley visits Dr. Newman, the psychologist from TV, to learn more about the mask. Dr. Newman tells him it resembles the mask of Loki, the Norse god of mischief. When Stanley tries to demonstrate what happens when he puts it on, nothing happens. The doctor concludes that Stanley must be delusional, claiming that Stanley and the mask are one and the same. Outside, Stanley leaves the office and catches a taxi, unaware that Calloway and Doyle are tailing him. In the park, Stanley sits nervously on a bench, waiting for Tina. When she arrives, he struggles to act normal and excuses himself, saying the mask will be there soon. He runs behind some bushes, puts the mask on, and emerges as the mask again. He tries to kiss Tina, but she knees him where it hurts. Clearly, she's not impressed anymore. Just then, Calloway, Doyle, and a group of officers surround him. They arrest the mask and take him away. At the Evening Star newspaper, Peggy's boss Murray informs her that the mask has been captured. She insists she needs to cover the story, and he agrees. Back in the park, the police are frisking the mask and pulling bizarre items from his pockets, including a photo of Calloway's wife. With a quick trick, the mask swaps the handcuffs onto the two detectives and spins away toward the park gates. Surrounded by dozens of cops, he suddenly transforms into a flamenco dancer.
Call me Cuba Pete, I'm the king of a rumba beat. See, senorita, I know that you would like a cheeky boom,
turning the entire standoff into a musical number. The police can't help but sing and dance with him, until Calloway and Doyle break free and end the chaos. The mask escapes down an alley, removes the mask, and transforms back into Stanley. Just then, Peggy pulls up in her car and urges him to get in. The cops open fire as she speeds off. In her newspaper's warehouse, Stanley thanks Peggy, thinking she's helping him, but she secretly betrayed him. She called Dorian, who arrives with his men to claim the $50,000 bounty. They tie Stanley to one of the printing machines and threaten him until he explains how the mask works. Dorian puts it on and transforms into a terrifying, monstrous version of the mask. Dorian's thugs take Stanley to his apartment to collect the stolen bank money. As they grab the cash from the closet, Milo sneaks out unnoticed and follows them. When they pass the police station, they toss Stanley out of the car, landing right on top of Detective Kellaway. The detective drags Stanley inside and locks him in a cell. From outside the cell window, Milo appears, tail wagging. Stanley asks him to help. Meanwhile, Tina visits Stanley in jail, telling him she doesn't care about the mask, she likes him for who he is. After she leaves, Dorian's thugs chase her down, and Stanley watches helplessly. Thinking fast, he gets Milo to fetch the jail keys. The clever dog climbs up, grabs the keys, and frees him. Stanley grabs a cop's gun and handcuffs Kellaway to himself before escaping the station. At the Coco Bongo Club, Dorian, still wearing the mask, crashed the event that's being hosted by Mayor Tilton and Stanley's friend Charlie. Dorian bursts through the doors with his men, starting a violent shootout with Nico's crew. Nico fires at Dorian, but the mask absorbs the bullets, and Dorian spits them back, killing his old boss. Outside, Stanley leaves Kellaway handcuffed in the car with Milo and heads into the club. Inside, he knocks out a thug and hands Charlie a gun for protection. He spots Tina tied to a fake coconut tree, with explosives set to detonate in 10 minutes. Dorian's thug Orlando captures Stanley and drags him over to Dorian. Meanwhile, Milo slips into the club, sneaking through the chaos. Tina tricks Dorian by asking for one final kiss, without the mask, she says, claiming she wants to kiss the real Dorian she once loved. Dorian removes the mask, and Tina kicks it away mid-kiss. It flies across the room as everyone scrambles for it. Milo jumps higher than anyone and catches it in his mouth. Stanley yells for Milo to run, but Dorian's men grab the dog. Milo slips free, puts on the mask himself, and instantly transforms into a wild, superpowered dog. He bites and attacks the thugs while Stanley knocks Dorian out. Stanley then takes the mask off Milo just as Orlando opens fire. The mask flies behind the bar, and Stanley dives for it. When the thugs approach, Stanley, now wearing the mask again, rises from behind the counter armed with massive guns and rocket launchers. The thugs panic and run away, not realizing the weapons are just cartoon props. Tina screams, the explosives are seconds from detonating. The mask rushes over, swallows the entire bomb, and lets out a fiery burp, completely unharmed. Dorian recovers and pulls out a knife, but Milo barks to warn the mask. He paints a cartoon toilet handle on the fake tree, flushes it, and Dorian gets sucked into the nearby pond, gone for good. Stanley removes the mask, finally himself again. Before he can kiss Tina, Charlie storms in with the police to arrest the criminals. Outside, Kellaway prepares to arrest Stanley, but Mayor Tilton intervenes. The mayor insists that Stanley is a hero. He saw Dorian wearing the mask himself. Reluctantly, Kellaway lets Stanley go. Later, Stanley, Tina, Charlie, and Milo drive across the bridge. Tina tosses the mask back into the river, and she and Stanley share a passionate kiss. But Charlie, still curious, jumps into the water to retrieve it, only for Milo to snatch it first and swim away proudly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video.